So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Stacy Lawler, Principal of OWR Opinion and Regional Partner for the New York, New Jersey, and part of Pennsylvania area for AIMCore EIG. And I'm excited to be collaborating today with my partners at KAFL and Prudential, not only for this webinar, but also for our Women in Finance Roadshow. So I struggle with describing women as a market because we do make up 50% of the population. And today, over half of us report making financial decisions for our household. Yet, women continue to feel overlooked by financial professionals and are grossly underrepresented as financial professionals. The statistics certainly point to a challenge for our businesses, but I also believe a huge opportunity for those of us who recognize and work to address some of those issues. So me, my partners at OWR, KAFL, and Prudential are all here to help you do just that. But before I turn it over to Karen, I want to remind you that we will be having a second webinar on the importance of estate planning for women on March 26th, again, a Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. So please reach out to our office, KAFL's, for registration information should you need it. And I think Juniper is going to put it in the chat link right now if you want to register for that webinar while you're here. And we're also hosting live in-person meetings for women in finance. So that'll be April 30th in Doylestown, Pennsylvania, May 1st in Central New Jersey, Kenilworth at the Galloping Hill Country Club, and May 2nd in Albany, New York. For any women on the call, I hope you'll join us for a few hours of networking and some great content on how we can help you grow your business. Gentlemen, feel free to spread the word to any of the women that you work with, and we promise we'll have something great for you soon too. So any housekeeping, I know that you guys are all on mute, so you can type in questions to the chat and we'll address them at the end, or we'll unmute everybody at the end and you can ask your questions then. And now I'm excited to pass it over to Karen Hoffman, Vice President of Prudential Advanced Planning Team. She's joining us from San Diego and we're lucky to have her. She was born and educated in England. She's an invited speaker nationwide on retirement planning, advanced markets, and a plethora of other financial subjects. In her current role at Pru, she speaks with financial professionals and their clients about ways to effectively accumulate, protect, and distribute wealth. Today, she's going to talk about the ways many of these topics are specifically relevant to women. So with that, I'll let her begin.
Thanks, Stacey. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to do this presentation. I seem to have found myself doing this more and more lately. But if you didn't know this already, and I'm sure you do, that Pru's been very active in a lot of female type events. We sponsor a lot of events. We do a lot of education for women. And it's just really, quite frankly, I'm so passionate about it. Obviously, being a woman myself, obviously having some, fears. I know I'm financially fearless, but we all have fears too, right? So going to kind of talk about a lot of the research that we've done at Pru, and then kind of go into some stories that I have of events that I've done, and ways really to attract female clientele as well as female advisors. Now, I hate looking at myself on camera, so I am going to go off the camera. I find it very off-putting, but I'll come back on at the end, if we have any questions. So let's just kind of jump right on in. So this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to discuss the opportunities in the women's market. We're going to go into some unique challenges. I'm also going to talk a little bit about social security strategies for women, because that's one of the topics, and I'll expand on that a little bit more when we get to that, on how insecure they are about it, how uneducated they are about it, and even the most educated females really don't understand how it works, and it's one of the things that I get asked to do a lot. And then how do you put a program in practice, right? How do you incorporate working with females, whether you're a female or a male? It doesn't make any difference. So we're going to talk about why this is so valuable, and really, how can women take control of their financial futures? How can they feel more secure about financial planning? All right, so there's a lot of statistics, and we did a lot of research. Some of this research is from Pru ourselves. Some of it is from other sources like Alliance for Lifetime Income, which we actually partner with, and also McKinsey did some research on this. So if you look at the challenges, right, this isn't a, I love it when I hear this is a niche market. this is not a niche market. This is a mass market, right? If you look at the numbers on the slide, $10 trillion women control in the US. And the other thing, and I'm sure you've heard this over and over again, and I actually wrote an article about this particular thing. And the reason why I wrote an article on it for a magazine, it was a digital magazine. I wrote an article on it about 70% of women change advisors within 1 year of their partner dying. Now, I wrote this article, it was about a page long, about the reasons why this happens. And I kind of toot my own horn here, but I had 645,000 hits on this article about working with widows, why it's so important, and you'll lose a lot of those assets if you are not working with the female of a couple. So again, we'll get to that halfway through this presentation. But, you know, Stacey, you mentioned that we're going to do another series on estate planning for women. Actually, that presentation I did actually write.
Correct.
And it came about because of some of these statistics. $30 trillion is expected to transfer to women by 2030. Most of that's probably going to be coming from their baby boomer parents, right? So there's a big, huge wealth transfer that's going to go to women. And then, of course, 94% of women, and I think you mentioned this, Stacey, do play a key role in managing their household finances. Now, you know, that is a huge number. Now, if you think back to, let's say, our parents and our grandparents, typically that wasn't the case, right? The man in the household usually did most of that. Most of the time, those women weren't working or they were staying home. The landscape has completely changed, you know. And what is interesting is while 51% of women do not currently work with a financial professional, that worries me, and I'd love to know why you think that is the case. I think what I've heard is that women, and I've heard this statistic many times, that women don't think they have enough money. One study was a colleague of mine, you know, has a sister that really does make really good money, and in her mind, she doesn't make enough money or have enough assets to seek out a financial professional. But if you ask women, are they interested in working with them? 71% said they do, but only 51%, you know, don't, right? So the numbers are just not right. It doesn't make any sense why every financial, you know, every female doesn't have a financial professional that they work with, regardless of the earnings and regardless of the assets, right? So this speaks for itself. Financial professionals, again, female and male, who work with women probably will likely close more business, close faster business, enjoy better, you know, greater job satisfaction, and gain significantly higher referral rates. Now, I want to stay on that. Think about it, ladies, on the call. When somebody asks us, and I'm going to make this light and funny, but somebody asks us, where did you get your hair done? Where did you get those shoes, right? We are very vocal about sharing referral sources, right? Nod your heads if you agree with me. We are very vocal about sharing referral sources. So if I were to be asked, you know, Karen, who is your financial professional, or do you know somebody? I would be more than happy 100% of the time to refer my person, who is a male, to anybody that wants to work with a financial professional, because I think he's fantastic, and I will share his phone number and who he is with anybody, right? So that's really one of the things that I've learned through this, is women will refer much more than men do. Now, we still have challenges, right? We still have, you know, women are more than likely, or 80% more than likely, to be impoverished when they're 65 or older. That is a shame. Now, why? I don't really know exactly. Women work 75% of the years that men work. Obviously, that's going to be things like staying home with children, having children, maybe only working part-time. What does that mean? It means it has a huge impact on their retirement savings, and it has a huge impact on their Social Security benefits. And of course, because of that reason, most likely women have less saved for retirement than men. But the other point on this slide is, stay-at-home moms, sole parents, especially during COVID, there was a lot of women were impacted where they had to stay home with their kids because schools were closed and things like that. So these are just, again, some of the statistics that we have studied and used other studies from other sources. So we're going to cover four things. We're going to cover the income, number one, the income gender gap, which I think is getting better, but it probably is still there. We're going to talk a lot about caregiving responsibilities, obstructing women's ability to save. The biggest challenge is living longer, right? Living longer, having a longer life expectancy means that their retirement savings have to stretch further. Women are impacted by healthcare costs again because they live longer. And then the confidence gap. And I'll tell some of my own stories here because that was a really difficult thing for me to overcome, the confidence of when it comes to investing and managing money. What I meant by that was it's not that I don't understand investing and managing money. I'm an investment advisor myself, but my fear of risk was really holding me back. And obviously that fear of risk means I don't accumulate as much wealth. So you're going to find a lot of women need help overcoming risk factors. I'm not going to read the slide. I think you could read this yourself. But the income gap apparently still is there when it comes to pay for women. Obviously, women earn less than men, in some industries. I'm sure that's true. According to studies, women make less even though they have a bachelor's degree than their male counterparts. And obviously promotions and pay raises are significantly less than their counterpart men. So what does that mean? It means if women earn less than men on average, it means women's Social Security benefits are less than a male's. That means that women have about 30% less in retirement savings. And it means that the average median annual income for women over 65 is definitely a considerably amount less than men's. Caregiving. Women spend 5.5 years out of the workforce versus 6 months for men. Women are more likely to be caregivers, caring for elderly parents than for men. And then a couple of interesting statistics is that more than 60%, and this is again scary, more than 60% of Alzheimer's and dementia caregivers are daughters. Okay, so Gen Xers may be caregiving in both directions, not only for their kids, which we call the sandwich generation, but also for their parents. In one survey that I had read recently, more than 40% of mothers said they had reduced their work hours to care for a child or family member compared to 28% of fathers. So working mothers have taken on more additional hours of childcare and chores, not only caring for their children, but also caring, and by the way, this is unpaid caring for their elderly parents. What does this mean? Caregiving can further impact their financial security, right? Again, it's saying the same thing, so I'm not going to keep reading this over and over again, but you can read this yourself. But what are some of the ways that we can help women stay on track for retirement? Number one, I think, is having an IRA for an at-home spouse, right? How many of your clients have an IRA for an at-home spouse, right? A lot of people think they can only have an IRA if they have working income. That is not true. You can actually have an IRA for a spouse as long as you make enough, as long as you, the working spouse, makes enough to cover the contribution to the IRA, right? It's called a spousal IRA. Another quick tip, do we max out our 401k contributions at work? Do we have a FSA, HSA account for healthcare expenses? And are we taking advantage of those catch-up contributions that we have either through an IRA or through a 401k at work for anybody that's over 50? 60% of women aged 25 to 75 believe their retirement savings will not last their lifetime, right? Women have longer life expectancies than men. In fact, women outlive them 5 to 6 years on average. And here's what's interesting. They also tend to marry men who are older than them. Combining these trends make it more likely that women will find themselves trying to fund a longer retirement, right? And potentially outliving their assets. You know, this can be hard, and I want to spend a little bit of time here. I'm not going to read the slide, but it's going to be hard because women think, well, if I am widowed, right, my household expenses when my spouse passes away perhaps will drop, right? And because of that reason, they don't plan, to have enough retirement income, right? In fact, statistically, income does drop a little bit when a spouse passes away, but it does not drop significantly. Widows actually account for about 32% of older women in 2018, and widowers outnumbered widows 3-1. Okay, with periods of widowhood lasting 15 years or more is not common, right? And you know, it is. I'm sorry. I'm trying to think what I wanted to say. It is a area that I think we need to spend a little bit more time with. And there was one particular person that I worked with. She was a financial gerontologist at the MIT Age Lab, and I traveled with her for many years. And I've been doing this a long time, especially this market. I traveled with her for a very long time, and there was one thing that I never forgot that she would always tell me. When a woman past age 65 is widowed, generally they don't marry again. Of course, there are some situations where they do, but generally, statistically, they don't marry again if they're widowed over the age of 65. But what's really interesting is men do tend to marry again, and they do tend to marry a younger woman, so sort of perpetuating this constant sort of widowhood, right? Because, statistically speaking, there's more widows that are females than there are men because women don't marry again after a certain age. So moving along, let's get into another thing that's really sort of important when we're working with women is what we call the gray divorce, right? Trends have indicated that overall divorce rates have flattened generally, but one segment is increasing, and that's what we call the gray divorce, which is women over age 50. The divorce rate for women over age 50 has doubled, according to the study that we got. 6 out of 10 women over 65 stay single, stay divorced, and stay widowed. And of course, this can wreak havoc on a retirement plan, right? Especially when it comes to income. The average standard of living declines 45% for women that are widowed or divorced, and women are 80% more likely to be impoverished when they are past age 65 or older. So I'm throwing a lot of facts at you. I'm throwing a lot of statistics at you, but here's really where I want to kind of talk about some particular area that I'm particularly concerned about. And I had them add this to this particular slide because it's so important that we talk to our women clients about what we call, what I termed the widow's tax penalty. So let's just start with the widow's tax penalty. Upon losing a spouse, right? Think about this. Upon losing a spouse, the woman, let's say she's the surviving spouse, we're just going to say she, will become a single filer for tax reasons. So think about this. For all the years that she was married, they filed a joint return, right? What that means is they'll get two standard deductions, and they'll be in a different tax bracket because they're joint filers. The year after a woman is widowed, immediately she becomes a single filer, And immediately she has only one standard deduction. So if you look at it, if I had a slide up on the screen that showed you somebody in a tax bracket of, say, 15% as a joint filer, automatically will now double as a single filer, right? That is serious, and we really need to help our clients plan for that. So upon the death of a first spouse, one Social Security is lost. Now your taxes go up, potential increase in taxes, or most likely an increase in taxes, potential reduction in their retirement income. And here's the other thing a lot of people don't realize. Once you go from joint filer to single filer, your Medicare premiums go up immediately. So not only are you losing a Social Security check, not only are you paying more taxes on the income that you are receiving, you're also going to pay more Medicare premium taxes, and most likely you'll be paying a higher tax on your Social Security check that you have. So for example, let's say I have a husband and wife that say joint Social Security is $3,000. He gets $2,000, she gets $1,000. So upon his death, immediately she will step in to his $2,000 check, and immediately she will lose her $1,000 check. And we really have to have more conversations about this, because when I'm out on the road doing these client events, doing these Social Security events, which I do a lot of, that always is a shock to most people. So I just wanted to, just kind of make a point there. If you have any questions at the end on this, please jump in. So healthcare costs is a given. We know that, women will have higher healthcare costs. We know the reason why is because, one, we live longer. Two, maybe we do spend more time taking care of our health than men do. But again, the statistics are screaming at you. 70% of nursing home residents are women. 76% of residents in assisted living homes are women. And women spend 30% more time receiving in-home care than men. So please be sure that your retirement income plan for your female clients and your couples include a discussion about how they need to pay for and fund long-term care costs, as well as their day-to-day living expenses. All right, I'm going to ask for audience participation. Quick poll. All right, you don't have to shout it out. You can shout it out if you want, but you're all on mute. So I did this last week to a group of people, and everybody got it wrong. So if you think about how women's investment performance compares to men, so there's 4 questions. Do men outperform women by 6%? Do women outperform men by 1.8? Do men outperform by 1.8? Or do women and men have equal investment performance? Anybody? What do you think? Anybody that's not on mute? What do you think the answer is?
B.
B? Oh, you knew this
C.
already. In fact, according to the study that we got, women outperformed men by 1.8%. Right? So that's interesting. Now, the reasons that were given in this study was kind of obvious. Women traded less frequently. Women do tend to choose less risky investments, more diversified, and they look at it as a long-term versus a short-term perspective. Now, I'll tell you my story just quickly. I think I'm somewhat financially fearless. Obviously, an executive at a large company. I'm the breadwinner in the family. But the biggest thing for me was the market. I had a challenge going into the market. So most of the time, most of the money in my 401k was sitting in a fixed account. And as much as my husband didn't like that, it was my 401k and I'll do with it what I want. I've since become a little bit less as I've got closer to retirement, I'm 60 right now, so I'm sort of looking at that last, 5 to 7 years. And as I've gotten to that point now, I've realized that it really does make a difference. And I've got to get over my risk adverseness. I've got to get over that because I'll never have as much as I would like in retirement. So that's one thing that you need to talk about with women, how they choose their investments and how they should have a more of a long-term perspective on their investments. So now we get into confidence. Now let's talk about how can we build more confidence, right? So another study reported that men they had a higher level of knowledge. They claim they have a higher level of knowledge, investment knowledge, versus half of the women. And then they did a test for them, and actually it turned out that it was right. Women didn't have as many correct answers as the men had. And yet women answered questions with "I don't know" as much as men did. So what does that mean? It means that we have to have an opportunity, or we need to make a point of helping our women clients be more educated about investments, about investing, driving more confidence, helping them understand things like Social Security strategies, like retirement strategies, because answering "I don't know" twice as much as men is really not a very good thing to hear, right? So there's a couple of quotes here. Women might take more time to make an investment decision, but this is because most women are meticulous about doing their homework, which is true. Once they have delved into the details to their satisfaction, they will take calculated risks and invest. And so I really like that quote from this particular person. All right. Women are responsible for 31.8 trillion in consumer spending, right? How do we help drive more confidence? How do we help them to save more money? How do we help them have a basic understanding of investment vehicles? That again, that's a pet peeve for me. How much it costs and how to put your goals in place, right? All right. I'm going to skip some of these slides because, again, they're saying the same thing over and over again, and I want to get into some strategies. So this is where I think we can help. I'll tell you a quick story. I have done hundreds and hundreds over my career of Social Security webinars and seminars. And I did one once in a little tiny town in Texas, somewhere in the middle of nowhere, where I drove for hours to whatever place this was, and I had no idea where it was. And I was thinking to myself, as I'm driving to this particular event, who's going to come to this out in the middle of nowhere, right, at night? And when I got there, I was shocked. There were over 200 people, most of them were women, that had driven to this podunk town in the middle of nowhere to learn about Social Security strategies, right? And one of the biggest questions I get when I do these, whether I do them virtually or in person, is when is the right time to begin taking Social Security? And I don't care what income bracket you are in. I don't care if you're a doctor, a lawyer, or somebody that works in a restaurant. Everybody wants to know about when is the right time to take my Social Security benefits, because it seems to, it's a very important decision to make, and everybody's afraid of making the wrong decisions. Now, it's not on the slide, but let me just tell you, 74%, I believe, was the last number I read, of women take their Social Security early. Now, why do you think that is? Is it because they need the money? No, it's because nobody gave them any advice. Nobody helped them decide when is the right time. They don't understand how it works. They don't think about longevity, because if you're losing 30% of your benefits for the rest of your life, that's a big chunk of change you're leaving on the table. But I think the biggest reason is they're afraid it's not going to be there, right? They don't need it, but they're afraid it's not going to be there. They're afraid it's going to be taken away at some point in the future unless there are changes made to the system. So what does it mean? It means if you take retirement early, right? And let's just look at the screen here. Your early retirement is age 62. You can go as low as 62, a little bit less if you're widowed. And that means the impact is about 30%. So in this case, if full retirement was $2,000 a month, you go early, you're losing $600 a month for the rest of your life, right? And the bad news is if you don't realize that, or if nobody has helped educate you on that, you have 1 year to do what we call a do-over, where you stop, pay the money back, and then go back and wait until you're at full retirement age. The other thing a lot of women don't realize, especially when you're working with couples, is one of them, usually the one that has the highest benefit, actually can wait, delay their Social Security and get a higher benefit. So a lot of times when I'm working with couples or when we're planning with couples, it makes a lot of sense to sit down with both couples. Who's getting what? Are you going to get your own? Are you going to take it on your spouse? Who's got the higher amount? Because it really makes sense for the higher amount beneficiary to delay as long as they can. Because again, remember I said, when one person dies, the bigger check stays and the smaller check is gone. Now, I mentioned this before, and this is just a slide that sort of shows you, look, together, this is our expenses. Together, this is what we need for guaranteed income sources. And in this case, there might be a gap that they could use their other investments to cover, right? So here we're just showing a couple with a pension of $15,000 and a couple with Social Security of $22,000, and they need, $57,000 to cover their essential expenses. But then you turn and look at the survivor, right? As I said earlier, their expenses may go down a little bit. Their healthcare expenses may go down a little bit, even though their Medicare premiums will most likely go up. But look at this. In this particular case, the pension, which may have been the husband's, has gone. And the Social Security has dropped. And again, as I said earlier, the taxes will be going up, right? So these are discussions that we really need to have ahead of time while they're both still alive, right? So how does life insurance come into this? Whoops, no, screen's not moving. There we go. I think I missed a slide. Okay, so have a discussion about delaying Social Security benefits. Have a discussion about how to maximize both benefits, especially for a surviving spouse. Obviously, supplementing benefits with other sources of income and life insurance. Now, this is where this comes into play. A lot of people say, well, why would somebody need life insurance? Think about this. I just told you, one of those checks is going to go away when one of the spouses passes away. For example, I gave you the example of $2,000 on him, $1,000 on her. She steps in and takes the $2,000. She loses $1,000. And let's say, for example, $1,000 a month is $12,000 a year of lost Social Security benefits that she now doesn't have. Why not look at a life insurance policy that could have, could cover at least $12,000 of income per year for, let's say, the next 20 years, right? It doesn't have to be a huge policy, but it also, it could really, really help address the loss of that Social Security income. All right, so here I just said that it could help provide emergency funds. It could help with chronic care. It could help the surviving spouse meet those needs in retirement. And it could also, if she doesn't need it, leverage funds behind for the next generation. Same with annuities. In fact, I'm going to talk about annuities real quick because this is where I overcame my fear of the market, not wanting to put my 401k into anything but a fixed account. Suddenly I realized once I understood how annuities can help me, that was when I made the switch. I moved as much as I could out of my 401k into an indexed variable annuity, the FlexGuard. The reason why I did that was because I truly loved the fact that I had unlimited up potential in the market and a downside 20% or even 30%. You can have either one buffer. That was what changed my mind. That women like me, and this is really our prime for products that have those securities but built in, those downside buffers, those caps or the uncapped market opportunity. Game changer. All right, so that again, I just wanted to share a little story. Now let's get into gender. Do women prefer to work with men or other women, right? The study that we did, this was one of the big ones that we got involved with, thousands and thousands of women that we asked, would you prefer to work with a man or a female? And according to the study, it absolutely doesn't matter at all. Women do not choose a financial planner based on their gender. 60% of women prefer working with a financial planner, that's what they told us, versus an investment advisor. Now, what's the difference? They looked at financial planners being more holistic, more approachable, more collaborative, and better communicators. They looked at investment advisors as being, stock picking, techie, they looked at them differently. And again, I don't have the study in front of me, but I just wanted to share, they want more teams. They want more, they don't like the investment advisor title. Apparently that is not what they said in this particular study. All right, so how do you attract and retain female investors? We do value diversity. We do like to work with a team that has both male and females. We do want, we like it looking at our team as a mentor, right? And helping us educate us. And the other thing is when engaging with couples, one of the things that men tend to do is they don't always engage with the female client, right? A lot of times they'll talk to whoever's doing the talking, and a lot of times in certain situations, the female may be very quiet. Maybe she's not as confident. Maybe she doesn't ask as many questions. And so most of the time, the conversation is between the financial professional and the male. However, when they get home and try to make decisions on what they're going to do, she's going to be involved in that decision making. And that, I think, really does lead to that statistic that I shared with you in the beginning, why females actually change financial advisors when they become widowed, is because they were never engaged in the planning process, and maybe they never felt that they were heard or listened to or understood. All right, so let's sort of get to the end of this. How do you get started? What can you do? I'm going to give you, again, a couple of ideas that I have done. I did one last week. I did one the week before. So I'm going to give you some tips. So how do we identify potential clients, right? Obviously, you're going to need to go back into your book of business, look at your pre-retirees, especially women at my age that are starting to kind of panic a little bit, right? But the real power to this and the way that you can really, really, really attract more females is to start doing educational seminars. Last week, I did a podcast with a very successful female advisor. She does this every week. She does 10 minutes. She only does 10 minutes, this podcast. And what we do before the podcast is we come up with 3 questions. So she basically interviews me. Karen, tell me about estate planning. Karen, what should women do for this? Karen, what should women do for that? And I keep it to 10 minutes. And then she does another one the next month. She's having fabulous success with this. I've also done a lot of events that aren't just about financial planning. They've got to be fun. They've got to be, you could bring in a wine expert. I've had events where we've done cooking classes. I even did an event in a nail salon where everybody got their pedicures done at the same time. If you make them fun and exciting, they will come. And not only will they come, they will bring a friend, they will bring a sister, they will bring a mother, they will bring somebody else with them. So really, I can't emphasize this. And I feel like I can talk to this because I've done so many of these things. They will come. You've got to do a little bit of education in there, not too high, not too high level. Don't use acronyms, right? Explain things to them and encourage them to bring a friend. All right, I sort of got to the end now. I shared a lot of numbers with you. It's a mass market, and we're really going to keep going after this. If you think about Prudential, I'm going to do a quick commercial for my company. We have more women executives, leaders than most other insurance companies. The head of life is a woman. The head of US business is a woman. This is really big for us. We have a lot of marketing materials that you can use. We've got invitations you can use. We've got pieces that you can share. Take advantage of what we have, because I think nobody else has as much as we do when it comes to this particular market. And we're not going to stop. We're going to keep going, and it's going to get bigger and bigger. I'm going to help you do more with the female market. So I talked a lot. So I'm going to stop. I'd love to hear opinions. I'd love to hear success stories if anybody has any. What do you do? What do you find? What are your challenges? Well, we've got the time. Excuse me. Stacy.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything. What do you think?
I think it was great. I hope everybody on the call agreed with me. I mean, I think really enlightening, some great ideas, both practically, quick tips. I love that we can give female clients that we're working with, and the global idea of how to attract some more women clients. I'll say at the meetings that we do, obviously I'm working with other financial professionals, but women do love to get together in any environment. So I think women meetings, that's why we're hosting one. As I said, we're doing the roadshow. We have the most success recruiting women to get together, because I think it doesn't happen enough and everybody's looking for that outlet. So if you can offer that to your clients, I know we're here to help, Prudential's here to help, KAFL's here to help, whatever avenue you came in on, we're all here to help you figure out how best to do that in your area, and attract, to attract and retain those clients. So. Yeah,
I mean, you use our resources. I mean, we, use our wholesalers, use our, I mean, I love doing webinars. I can't travel across the country all the time, but we actually have female written webinars with actual, strategies, right? And things like that. So it's not just this kind of stuff. It's got a lot of, how do I do this? Why should I do this? That kind of thing. So take advantage of Prudential.
Karen, this was great. And I think that one thing that the statistics might change on is that age of widowhood and when that actually happens. Out of my husband's family of 4, we have 2 widows, and they both were in their 40s when they became widows. So I think that statistic is drastically going to change, and we just don't know at what age that's going to happen. So earlier planning is obviously best practice. It can happen at any point in time.
Yeah, that's good. Good point. I think there was a couple of things in the chat that I saw. Was there something in the chat? Okay.
They were just saying that women outperformed men in investing.
Yeah. That was a good, I was surprised when I saw that. But then I got to thinking about myself, right? And I'm like, well, yeah. And
I think that's where I really, first of all, I do women's masterminds occasionally. Like I usually pick a different group every year. The thing they appreciate the most is when I invite my financial advisor in and give them like basic, what are investment buckets? And then like, what's good debt versus bad debt? And it is amazing how many people are so appreciative. Like they're in that room, but they don't want to sound stupid. And once they have that basic knowledge, they feel like such a better collaborative partner with their spouse. So I think really keeping it simple is super important. And yeah, the women that I'm surrounded by are just from there, just learn how to feel comfortable asking for help and talking about things. Just telling them that like, it's okay if you don't know as an advisor, I think is important.
Yeah.
I think the other aspect that you were talking about that I got a little bit confused on is that we're outperforming men because I don't look at my retirement accounts. I have a financial advisor. Tell me what to do, right? But then you also mentioned that we invest more conservatively and that we should push into that. So is it like a combination of both and not be extreme?
I think it's a combination of both. I think it kind of went back to my story of everything is in the fixed account, right? It's still making money, but I'm not jumping in and out of the market, right, at the wrong time either. So I think it is a combination of that. Just want to go back to what you just said as well. Doing seminars and inviting an estate planning attorney, doing a seminar and inviting a CPA. So it kind of looks like you've got a team. So now you're the financial advisor. You've invited an estate planning attorney to talk about wills and trusts and that kind of stuff. Those usually are phenomenal and very well attended when you've got remember I talk about that team approach. They want to see a team approach in your practice. That's a great way to show them a team approach. Hey, thank you. I hope this was helpful. If anybody wants a copy of this deck, we have it. If you want to, look at it again. Where's?
I would say this was super.
Oh,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
I was going to say recorded this as well.
You go, Stacy. You go.
I only see one person at a time, so I
know you can only see the screen.
So we've recorded this as well, and we're happy to share it out. And again, we're doing a part 2 on some of those specific estate planning related topics for women that Karen's helped put together as well. So we'll be doing that in March. So I certainly encourage everybody to register. Hopefully you guys found this incredibly valuable. You will that way as well. And now I'll turn it to Lisa.
Sorry. I was just going to say this was really relevant for me. Having a mother who has Alzheimer's and, having some relationship changes in my life and like all the things that I feel financially stable and realizing there's still more questions and I need to dive back in and really think even more out into the future. I think it was helpful to just zoom out a little bit and see some of those challenges that I might be experiencing in the future. So I really appreciated the conversation.
Yeah, thank you. So Donna, who's doing the next one, is my bestie. She's actually an attorney, so she does a great job talking about. But she's going to keep it on low, not too high level, but she's going to get into some of the things that women need to understand now before they're widowed, right? Once you get to that point, it's too late. So the planning needs to be done now. So that's going to be a good session. All right, guys. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Karen.
Bye. Thanks, guys.
Take care.
Bye.